Welcome to the next episode of I Really Should Be Working. My guest this time is the acclaimed director of 10 Till Noon, Official Rejection, Favor, and Cruel Hearts, which is currently on Amazon Prime, so you can watch it while you're waiting for your toilet paper to show up. Paul Osborne, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Lucas.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Look, quick correction. I didn't actually direct 10 Till Noon. I wrote 10 Till Noon.
Oh.
Scott Storm directed 10 Till Noon. Scott Storm is listening to this podcast right now, and his head just exploded. He's like, he didn't direct. Because we were both very, I wrote it. He directed it. It was a total group effort, and we went on the festival circuit with it. Sometimes they would screw up, and they'd put my name down as director on the programs. He'd bust. He's like, I worked so hard on this movie, man.
People love when their credit is given to somebody else. That's one thing I've learned in life.
Yeah, it's understandable. I totally understand why Scott would want to shoot up a 7-Eleven whenever someone credits me with his work. But I wrote it. I did write it, but he directed it and did a wonderful job. Scott, if you're listening, you did a great job.
So my first question is always in this podcast of whatever it is, how you holding up?
I'm actually holding up surprisingly well. There's the stress of the world outside, but I can work from home. My wife can work from home. My kids are loving virtual school because they hate leaving the house. I was an only child. I am an only child. My wife is an only child. We're both 80s latchkey kids. So this is like every vacation I had as a kid. Oh, more than that, we were both on an experimental school system where they said the vacations falling in the summer, they fell in random 2-month intervals. So mine was in the spring, in the fall. That. Yeah, it was called Concept 6, and we were the only it was our section of the county. So all my friends who were in other schools were off during the summer when I was in school, and a lot of my other friends at my own school had different vacation schedules. So I was on vacation. So I didn't even have friends to play with. Plus there was no one in my neighborhood anyway. So I couldn't even call people. So me being alone in my house with my wife and kids is actually kind of crowded. Love not having to drive because I live in LA and working from home where I do a lot of, to feed myself, I do a lot of TV promo work, and TV is very busy right now because everybody's watching it. So I'm actually busy, and I have no problem telling what day of the week it is because I have deadlines, man. So
you're right in your wheelhouse.
I really am. I got really lucky. We did sell one of our cars because it was older, and we planned to get rid of it and upgrade anyway. So we just got rid of it to save on the insurance. We're not driving. It's kind of awesome. Like I'm getting a lot more sleep. And my wife and I cracked out all the puzzles we meant to do. So instead of our drive time after work, we're like doing puzzles and having dinner. It's kind of nice.
Cool. I told someone at the grocery store, I was like, this is kind of what we do anyway. It's just we can't go to the bar next door to work. And we can't drop the children off at grandma's house.
Yeah. I miss going to the movies. I miss film festivals and miss hanging out with people. There's that, but we're really fortunate so far. Everybody's healthy. It's a little stressful on the older kids because one of them's graduating college, and one of them's graduating high school, virtual graduations. And the poor high school kid, because he's like, he's planning on leaving LA, and it's he's like, this is my last time to spend time with my friends. Social, popular kid. No prom, no parties, no nothing. Just home at home with mom and dad. Like that's all it is.
Ugh. All right. So my first question, well, I guess my second question is, you kind of everybody heard about you originally from Official Rejection, which is the documentary about film festivals. So and film festivals are really, really in flux at the moment. So where do you think that's gonna land?
I think that I think the fate of festivals is tied to the fate of live theater, live cinema, going to the cinema to see movies. I still prefer that. I still prefer going out to see the movies. The thing that's festivals survived on a different kind of window from a regular release, in that, if the latest Chris Nolan movie could be seen everywhere, it's in 3,500 screens, any theater you go to, there's a screen or two playing that movie. But with a film festival, this is stuff you haven't seen before. This is stuff you can really only see here. This stuff may never be seen again. It's playing in this very small window. And when a festival cultivates its audience correctly, they're coming out for the festival to see different kinds of stuff. And there's usually filmmakers in attendance, and you get to do one-on-one interaction with them. There's an exclusivity to it that drives people to get in the car and go buy a ticket or a pass. That said, if theaters don't exist, because their main business, regular releases, ebbs away, then festivals may have a hard time surviving, or they may have a hard time finding sponsors. If sponsors, perception is reality. If Stella Artois, which sponsors every film festival on the planet, if they go, we don't think there's any money in no one's going to these anymore because we think that, whether it's true or not. So we're not going to put any money into it. Suddenly the festival has a much harder time putting on a show because they lose that sponsor. On the flip, though, I don't think that the virtual festival is going to survive. And the reason is that most indie distribution, there's a little bit of theatrical, but almost all of it's online. Almost all of it's VOD. Almost all of it's, transactional VOD for the first few months, then subscription VOD for the next few months, and then it goes down to ad-supported VOD, some Blu-ray, some DVD, but pretty much that's where indie film lives. And if you were making your film available to rent at the Chattanooga Film Festival online, you're cutting into your distributor's audience. So whereas when you played a live festival, playing a bunch of live festivals made you much more appealing to a distributor. They go, oh, you've played in theaters, the word's gotten out, people are aware of your movie, it's been a few months, they might want to see it again, they'll tell their friends about it, there's always press about it. Everybody that went to the Chattanooga Film Festival, whether they saw it or not, were exposed to your name in their flyer. This makes you've built an audience for the movie doing the festival circuit. It's very appealing. With the virtual festival, they go, oh, well, 100 people rented your movie at the Chattanooga Film Festival for $10. They're not going to want to rent it again to watch it on iTunes. They're not going to want to watch it again on it dilutes. It dilutes the same market pool that a distributor needs. So unless festivals are going to share revenue with filmmakers online actively and also do region limiting on where you can rent the film, they're going to have a really hard time sustaining that. Either filmmakers are going to have to choose, I either play at a festival online or I have distribution. It's almost going to come down to that, I think, if it goes on. I could be wrong, but I know myself personally, we're fortunate because Cruel Hearts was on the festival circuit last year, so we avoided all this. But I've always avoided online festivals, and I know this year I would probably pull from online festivals if this was my festival year, because again, you don't want to dilute your revenue pool or even a perceived revenue pool for your distributor.
Do you, though, if you're in a situation of 2020 where there's no festivals and they're all virtual, do you have the problem where if you're a first-time filmmaker,
it's horrible.
You need the film festivals to sort of vouch for you to the distributors. Yeah. So you're then looking at, do I want to get 30% of this number, or do I want to get 100% of nothing?
You almost have to, I think the choice is almost, if you have a built-in audience of some kind if you're a first-time filmmaker, but you have a YouTube channel, you've done YouTube videos and you've built up an audience, or if you have a huge social media following, or one of your actors does, you have some way of tapping into, this is not most filmmakers, by the way, right. But if you have some way of tapping into a larger online audience who are predisposed to watch things at home right now because of the pandemic, then you might want to go, we're just going to come out. We're just going to come out right now and do a release right now and not do festivals and try to capitalize. Or you have to squat on the movie for a while. We actually had this problem because we shot a film last year, and it's like I'm very close to a first cut. And I've actually been kind of slowing down on it because I know we can't come out. Like, I don't want to come out. We were thinking, 2021 festival circuit, 2022 release. And I'm like, we can't. We're going to have to wait at least, hang on to it for at least another year. More than that, because this film is about, it's a Black comedy. And one of the things it's about is the grind of daily life. Like the grind of having to go to a job for 10 hours and having to sit in traffic. And there's a whole section of the film where he's in traffic. And I actually need to get some traffic pickups. I can't get the shots until there's actual traffic.
You're saying it's a little dated.
Yeah. So, well, it won't be again. It won't be in a few years. They'll, right. when we've adjusted, whether people are wearing masks, but we've adjusted to life outside again and traffic's coming back, it'll be relevant, but I gotta wait for like 2022 now for the thing to like. So yeah, it's so you either need to, and Blayne Weaver, our mutual friend Blayne Weaver, has a film that he completed. It was on the festival circuit. It's on the festival circuit right now, or was supposed to be, a slasher film called Getaway.
Mhm.
He's played a couple of virtual festivals, but he's done a short as well, a short called Ghosted. The short's playing. Shorts are different. Shorts don't
Yeah,
have
of
the
course.
same distribution goal, but he's facing the same exact problem. Now he's also started his own distribution company, and this is going to be one of the first titles from it. So he does have the option to distribute now. One suggestion that I had for him was, there's not a lot of films in theaters now. There's not a lot of theaters open,
Right.
but there's a few drive-in theaters or a few other theaters that are actually open. And if you look at the box office reports, there's like little indie movies are topping the box office with like, number one of the box office with like $7,000. I'm like, maybe instead of doing virtual festivals, maybe you should program your film into every drive-in theater as a midnight movie and be like number one at the box office. Create ads that say number one at the box office and do day and date like a month later. Like that might be actually a strategy for you. And skip festivals because you have this ability to do that.
You could four-wall it, and then and then the thing
At the
is,
theaters that
even that's there's a pretty long tail on that approach, because if you have the number one movie in the box office, that's something 5 years from now will still be true. You still had the number one movie in the box office, and people will sort of forget when that was. They won't look. They'll be like, "Oh wow, we had number one movie in the box office. That's something."
Even to the Facebook audience, still pretty impressive. If you want to get Glenn from high school to rent your movie,
I mean,
it's
it's
a
one of
pretty
those,
good stat.
It's one of those things where you're like, I don't know, maybe it was like a normal February when the box office is weird,
Yeah, you can be number one at the box office. So and actually it's funny. Like the drive-in here, the drive-in theater closest to Los Angeles is called the Mission Tiki Theater, and they have 2 screens and they run films. No, so they have 4 screens and they run double features. They're running 8 movies a night. They're about an hour out of LA, and I don't know how crowded they are, but I know they're operating, and I know that a lot of people from LA are going down there to watch movies, including some big people in the industry who are just bored. Like Guillermo del Toro is going down there to watch movies.
That this is the thing to do. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, like Mark Duplass is going down there to watch. Like these people are going down to watch movies, and so I've actually written to them. They don't have a theater booking thing on there. They do have they have a private event. Like you can schedule a private, but like I want how do I book a movie there? So I'm trying to figure that out. But that's something where you book a film there, and you chart in the box office, and you could get your film in front of some actually influential eyeballs during all this craziness.
Which couldn't hurt. I mean, they might see an actor in there and go, kind of like that, and then you will be that actor's favorite person forever.
Yeah, exactly. Or they go, this movie's not bad. And this guy could, work in my writer's room in my show or whatever. I mean, it's but it's something to think about. Like, so he's got that same exact problem with a film 2 films that what do you do with them? The short is just playing virtually, but the feature, I think it did Dead Center online and a few others, but
Oxford online.
Yeah. Like, what do you do with it? The Phoenix Film Festival has actually delayed their event to the fall.
Which is tricky because then you don't know if it's going to actually happen. And you then run into all the things that were already in the fall.
Right.
Like, the fall's going to be weird.
They have a unique relationship with their local venue. The Harkins Theater chain has their flagship theater in Scottsdale is this massive, like, I think it's a 16-plex. Wow. Like that? It's like 16. Anyway, or 17. So they dedicate half the theater to the festival, and the festival gets really good turnout. So they're able to the theater has partnered with this festival for years, and in fact, they convinced the festival to expand it to a second weekend. They we want more festival time because people are coming out and watching movies during weekdays, during matinees, and they're getting a lot more turnout. So they may be I'm sure they were the ones like, don't go virtual. Like, we'll accommodate you in the fall, but we don't want to lose the revenue.
Well, the fall, they won't have any movies to show. They won't have any normal movies because...
Well, or they may have a glut.
They might have a glut.
Because a lot of films... Some films, we forget that, a few films premiered online, Trolls World Tour or, Invisible Man went to this premiere online, whatever. But we forget that like a lot of these studios held on to most of their movies.
True.
Quiet Place 2, they're holding on to. SpongeBob, they held on to. These are big titles that are just sitting there. Tenet, is not going to play. They're going to play theaters. They're going to wait.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if you're that theater, the 15th screen is not, nobody's coming to see the 15th screen on a Wednesday matinee.
Right. Which is how Tug, R.I.P. Tug.
Yeah.
Tug was surviving that business. They would, they book theaters as they go. If you do it during a weekday, there's always a theater or two of a film that's in its 6-week run and it's starting, and no one's going to see it. And they'll bump a screening of that if you're going to get 50 people there.
Yeah. I mean, when I programmed my first feature, my only feature, in my hometown movie theater, I was like, look, I used to work here. I know for a fact that I will outgross 5 of the movies you're going to have this week. Because I'll just run around and get everybody that I know to come see the movie. I'll guilt trip them into coming to see it. And they were like, okay, great. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, one night only. Let's go. Like,
yeah.
Oh, you made a movie. It's such a novel thing. Wow.
Right. Yeah. Especially up here. It's not, in LA, that's probably not going to work as well. But in Maine, they're like, whoa, shit.
In LA, it's LA. It's like with kids, especially because I have kids. It's like I get like two invites a week, or I did back when things were normal. We get like 2 invites. Like, come see my movie at the such and such. I'm like, I can't. I can't. Well, if I didn't have the obligation of being home and being around the kids, I'd be like, why not? Like when I go to festivals, I just live in that theater, man. I just see everything. But it's like, they're like, oh, we're playing at the such and such sliding door something thing. Come see it on a Wednesday. I'm like, I can't.
I have a job. So what happened with Tug? I completely forgot about the Tug fiasco. Like
they went out of business, but they didn't tell anybody.
Right. They're just like up in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, we had with Cruel Hearts, we had our theatrical run was largely tied up with Tug. We had done some Tug screenings that fall, which were sold out and we did well with. And then we had arranged, our day and date screenings. A lot of them were Tug screenings. It was an easy way to control the market. And so wasn't every screening, but we lay heavily on the Tug engine for that. And we got everything booked and we had all these screenings that were sold out, ready to go. And like, I think a week and a half before our release, all of a sudden we were getting emails saying, this didn't hit the threshold, so it's canceled. We're like, well, wait a minute, it was sold out. It was sold out.
That's weird.
And Tug wasn't responding to any. We called their emergency line. We're like, oh, maybe it's a glitch. And it was one screening, then it was the next screening, then it was the next screening, then it was the next screening. We're like, what's happening?
They've been around a while too. They weren't like a new player.
No answer to their phone, no response to their general email, no response to their emergency line email, nothing, no response to anything at all. And it went on, and we talked to the venues, and they're like, we don't know. We just know the screening was canceled. Tug canceled the screening, so oops. So I think it took about a day. We realized there was some thing saying they were going out of business, and they still owe us money for those fall screenings. Like they still owe us quite a bit of money. And they're like, well, we get people, ticket holders are getting emails saying, "Oh, the screening's canceled, but don't worry, you're going to get your money. Screening's canceled, but don't worry, your credit card wasn't charged." These people's credit card were charged because the screenings were sold out. They had all been charged. So like they're saying my credit card wasn't charged. It absolutely was charged. So we're like now running around to individual ticket holders, trying to get them to helping them file claims with their credit card company for $12. Meanwhile, we're negotiating directly with the original venue, saying, "Look, we had sold out this screening. Like, we still can we make the screening still be on? Mm-hmm. We'll get everybody to buy tickets again. We're sort of trying to get people to go, sorry you bought a ticket, but
buy another one."
Yeah, and so we ended up salvaging I think 3/4 of the screenings, but we basically had to eat. I mean, we had to eat all the money. Like we did one where they didn't charge, where the theater's like, we won't charge you as long as you hit a certain threshold of tickets, but we didn't make any money off that at all. Like they kept everything. Another one where it was in Albany. One of our producers is from Albany, and is mostly his people that had bought tickets. So he was like, he ended up paying the theater to run it so everybody could get in for free that had bought tickets and had to pay insurance. So he ended up making, I think they ended up making a little bit of money because people who hadn't bought tickets previously he was able to charge them for tickets through the theater. But if you were a previous ticket holder, he got them in for free. So he made a little bit, but that covered the insurance, and it ended up being just a ripe disaster. I mean, it was 10 days before release. It was super embarrassing. This is all guaranteed revenue to the film via theatrical that we lost. And these are people who, by the way, because they were going to see it theatrically, weren't going to be getting it online that week. They weren't going to be renting it from iTunes. So we lost potentially hundreds of transactions on iTunes. And, you know, the more transactions you have on iTunes, the higher you go in the rankings, the higher you go on the charts, and the more visible you are to people who are stumbling across your movie.
Yeah.
And the more faith that iTunes has in your movie, the more they're going to make you visible and put you in a banner and keep you out where people can see you. And therefore, the more money you make from people just wandering by and finding you. So it potentially could have potentially cost us tens of thousands of dollars in terms of you know, where we could have gone with it if we hadn't done any theatrical, or if that theatrical had translated it, whatever. It was a disaster. And Tug eventually got back saying, "Oh, sorry, we're totally broke. Can't pay anybody. We're liquidating our assets. If you have money, we owe you money. Send us a claim. We'll try to.
Yeah, good luck.
We'll maybe send you back your DCP. Whatever. It was a disaster area."
Jeez. And because with Favor, like, you did really well on iTunes.
Yeah, really well on iTunes, and we did really well with Tug. We did the same thing. We did a theatrical, and we did a bunch of those were Tug screenings, and we were profitable in theaters.
So for Fluorescent Beast, what do you do with that then when that comes out? Obviously Tug's not an option.
Right. There are other ones. We'll see. The landscape of distribution changes so quickly.
Right.
I mean, who knows what's going to be.
Might not be movie theaters.
There might not be movie theaters. No, seriously, there might not be movie theaters. It might be a very different world. There's all kinds of new players coming up in distribution now, and Blayne's starting a company, and you know, so you don't know. It's funny. You mentioned official rejection earlier. There was a guy who wanted to potentially finance a sequel dealing with distribution. And I said, I don't think it'll work. And he goes, why? I said, I don't think I could make the film fast enough for the information in it to still, because official rejection is, you know, it came out 11 years ago. I mean, it's a while ago, but the information in that film, the tech is a little old. You know, people are sending in DVD screeners and stuff, but the information still, yeah. And instead of Film Freeway, it's Without a Box is the submission service. But the information in official rejection is still mostly valid.
I mean, Sundance is still there.
It's still, yeah, the way that festivals work, the politics, all that stuff it's still a primer. It's still a really valid look at what happens. A distribution documentary would be out of date if I was editing for 6 months. I mean, it's crazy. Like when we would have been shooting that was when Kevin Smith sold Red State. Do you remember this? He sold Red State to himself. Kevin Smith had his film Red State at Sundance, and he did he said, we're going to screen the film, we're going to premiere it, we're going to have a bidding war on stage at the Q&A. So all these distributors piled into the theater, ready to bid on this movie right after the world premiere, and he sold it to himself for $1 on stage as a screw you to distributors. And was like, I believe in this film, and I'm going to put it out myself. I'm going to start my own distribution company. This is how I'm going to work from now on, because I doubled in on myself, and I could do a road show of it because I had this, that, and the other. And he did one movie and then never did it again because he decided it was too much work. I don't know what. I mean, the film was profitable. Yeah. But he had to tour with the movie and do all this work for it, and now he hasn't done that ever again. A lot of work. And the way he did it doesn't really exist anymore. Yeah, like your distribution movie would, in the time it went through the festival circuit and was ready for distribution, would be obsolete. It wouldn't it wouldn't make sense anymore. You know, like we have new players all the time. Like Tubi is a new player are you familiar with Tubi? Which is where Favor is playing. Favor, you can see Favor on Tubi right now. You can watch. I watched it again on Tubi the other day. Thank you. It was, you're welcome. And it was really weird. Like, it was crazy how vivid all the memories from the shoot were. Right. You know, like there's a scene in that house
And I'm like, oh, I remember the pool behind the house
Mm-hmm.
and all these other things. And that was, I mean, how many years ago did we shoot that?
We showed that 2011.
2011. So like 9 years, and it was just flooding back.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Stuff.
More than ever, I'm really like, film is such a time machine. Like I watched The Great Escape last night, which a film I love and I've seen throughout my whole life. But the Criterion Blu-ray came out, and last night I forced my son to sit through it, and we watched it. And it's a 57-year-old movie. Everybody in this film is dead. Everybody in this movie, except David McCallum, who's on NCIS right now, I think, is dead. And but I'm like, Steve McQueen's like 33 in this movie, and he's vivid there, like right as day. And I'm like, it's amazing. Like, this guy would be 90 right now if he was alive. This is an amazing. It's an incredible. Yeah. Or I watched the French Connection a few days ago. I'm watching 1971 New York, and it's incredible. You look back there and it's like, this is a time machine. Like, you can really travel back and see what it was like back then. And especially if you work on a film, it transports you back when you watch it. Yeah, it's frightening.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, I'm like, oh, look, there's Paul's house, and there's the desert where we get to bring our own dirt. And like, but then it's also hard to like judge the film because, like, so the dirt scene, I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, that's clearly the dirt we brought in. Clearly. Yeah. But then I'm trying to think, I'm like, if I didn't know that.
If you unearthed dirt from the ground and you put it back down.
Yeah.
In the desert, the dirt underneath is darker because it's got some moisture in it and the stuff on top isn't. But if you know that dirt's brought in, you're like, that's just a big dirt mound.
That's just dirt they brought in. That's not even dirt.
like cartoonishly dumped in the desert.
Yeah. But then, like, if I don't know that, and I'm watching the movie, is that going to jump out at me?
I know where, like, you can see wires and stuff. Like, you can see our... Yeah. Like, if you look at that light real carefully, you can see one of our light panels reflected. Like, you can... I know that movie. I go through a thing with any movie I do, is like where I'm editing, and I really get to hate the film towards the end. Oh yeah. I really get, like, I hate it. Like, I want to, like, throw the hard drive out the window and stomp on it, like the way they treat the printer in Office Space. Like, take it to the yard and bash it.
I always felt like, because I haven't made anything forever, but I always felt like I would hate it for a very long time, and then when I started to not hate it anymore, then I was like, okay, I think it's almost done. That was the point where it was sort of round into shape, and I'm like, okay, no, this might work. People might not yell at me if I make them watch it. And then you're like, okay, I think we're onto something, and that's sort of like the light at the end of the tunnel for me.
So your curve ends early. My hate extends through like showing the movie.
Yeah.
Like,
oh no, I can't watch the movie.
I can't sit in a theater to watch the film for the first, like, year. I gotta, like, stand in the vestibule, like, pace, and I hate it. I sit there and I, like,
never watched
drink.
A movie I made with an audience ever.
No, I do. I watch the audience. I'm always interested in how they're going to react, but I can't look at the screen because I'm like, ugh. So I go through a whole, like, it takes about a year, and then I'm like okay with it. I'm like, okay.
I'm in the lobby, like, trying to hear things.
Yeah.
But I can't be in the room. No.
Well, the worst is that, I have to get up in front of a Q&A. I have to submit the film to festivals and be like, play our movie. It's great. I'm like, I don't believe a word of what I'm saying. I'm like,
you'll love it.
I feel like I'm so sorry. And then, like, I have to, like, talk to journalists about the movie, do Q&As, and be like, talk about, the cat, and I focus on things I like. Like, I always, like, I've been fortunate enough to work with some really great casts and crews, and our no asshole policy on set seems to work. Like, you were on set with Favor. Like, it was a really good time. Everybody got along.
I was the only asshole there.
No, you were our asshole. But I guess that set was very much like the other sets that I've run. Like, everybody seems to get along. There's no poison pills. Everybody's kind of happy, and so I always try to. And the Q&As, I can drum up real passion for my people. Sure. I love them. I feel bad because I made them work on this movie that I hate. So I have to angle it to pretend to drum up enthusiasm for the first year. After the first year, I usually go back and go, that's okay. Like, Favor I can watch now, no problem. And I actually really like. There's still a couple of scenes I have a hard time because we had to ADR them, and I suffer through them. But I can watch that. What's really hilarious on Tubi is
ads.
They select. the ads are fun, but they select a random. And by the way, Tubi, for those of you who don't know, is a free ad-supported streaming service that anybody can get. You can even need to be a member. Like you can get a free membership so you can save your cues and stuff. But you can just download it to your Apple TV, put it on your smartphone, watch it on your browser, any device. There's a lot of really good movies and a lot of really trashy, fun movies. Like it's got a pretty good library of non-Netflix stuff, and it's ad supported, and so I really like Tubi. I go there all the time. I vacillate between Tubi and Criterion Channel. I feel like watch something really trashy and then watch something really fine and trash. Like have a cheeseburger and then have like a steak. But on Tubi, they select a random still, or at least they did, to be the background on the Favor page banner for the movie Favor. So if you see it as a random still, and it's a still of my wife who has one scene in the movie as an actor drinking wine. So like, doesn't have Blayne, doesn't have any of the stars of the film. It's just got my wife in her one scene with wine in her face. And that's hysterical.
It's really a shame that they didn't select a still of Joe and I pretending to be Patrick and Blayne.
Right.
In that garage. Because that would have really confused people.
If you get the DVD, that's on there. You know that, right?
Is it on the DVD?
If you get the DVD, Party Favor, the half-an-hour documentary making of Favor is on it. And that's in there. It's got you and Joe, the Boom Man, impersonating the two lead actors, and it's got the two lead actors impersonating you back to back. It's got both.
I'm pretty sure I have the DVD somewhere.
It's on there, yeah. Party. Actually, if you want to talk about memories, because Party Favor, we did this with Cruel Hearts as well. We made a behind-the-scenes documentary that's kind of incorporates bloopers and incorporates outtakes. Mm-hmm. So it's a very fun, kind of integrated comedic behind-the-scenes look. But you'll recognize all this stuff.
I should watch that sometime. Yeah, that's.
Well, there's stills that you took in the documentary, and we credit A Year Without Rent.
Oh yeah,
on screen. Yeah.
Yeah, every so often we'll see some of those pictures like floating around the internet. It's a nice little nostalgia boost.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I have a question about Favor and Cruel Hearts, because I watched Cruel Hearts also on Prime.
Oh, yay!
Why did you kill Blayne in Cruel Hearts?
What?
Because there's.
Did you notice that? Wow. I got a great story about that.
I actually went and I heard it because I was here at work.
Oh, that's good. You pick up.
I was working and I heard it and I'm like, wait, no, wasn't that his? I'm like, that was one of the characters in Favors. And I went and looked it up and I was like, yeah, that was a character.
Yeah. That's an Easter egg. So for those of you who don't know, Blayne's character gets away with some pretty terrible things in Favor, Blayne Weaver's character. And he kind of wins in Favor. So in Cruel Hearts, one of the characters in Cruel Hearts is kind of a news junkie. And he's constantly listening to news, flipping channels, listening to news. So we had to create all these fake news reports that he's listening to. And we got some real news people to do, and radio announcers to do some of those news reports. So we had one that was a news report about a dead body being identified, and it was identified as Blayne's character Kip Desmond from Favor. So if you watch Cruel Hearts as an Easter egg of Favor, saw ending a story point in Favor. So it's a little. Anyway, it's a funny one. A few people have picked up on it, but what's really hilarious
in the Paul Osborne multiverse.
Yeah, cinematic universe.
He dies in this one.
Yeah. So I got a great story about that. So Blayne Weaver, the lead actor in Favor, is a good friend of mine, and he's also a filmmaker.
Enthusiast.
Huh?
An Zima enthusiast.
He's a Zima enthusiast. That Zima flowing, man. He's an actor. He's also a writer. He's also a director. And he's a real good friend of mine. So he and I collaborate a lot. We've written scripts together. We show each other's work, and I'll punch up his stuff, I'll punch up my stuff. So when we had Cruel Hearts, and I was trying to lock in on Lock Picture, on the final edit, what I would do is I'd have screenings over at the house, and so I'd bring people over whose opinion I valued, and they'd watch the film and in the living room, and then we talk about it afterwards, and I get some notes, and I would go back and I'd do it again. So I brought Blayne and another friend of mine, Eddie Jemison, in for the second to last pass to look at this thing. And they hadn't seen anything of the movie. I think Blayne had read the script, but and I like to do it in person where they can sit and I can watch them, because you can feel the reaction in the room they'll give you their opinions afterwards, but you can tell where it's slow. You can tell where it's moving along just by sitting behind people watching a movie and feeling their energy. So Blayne's sitting there on my couch. I'm literally right behind him in a chair, just like watching him. And that scene's coming up where they mention that Kip Desmond is dead, his character from Favor. So I'm watching him. I'm thinking he's going to laugh. I'm thinking he's going to like, or something. Or I'm hoping he'll notice,
Right.
So I'm watching him, and it comes up, and they know Kip. The body's been identified as Kip Desmond, and blah 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 blah. And he turns to me. This is what he does. He turns to me. He just goes like, "I'm dead." Of these big sad puppy dog eyes. I'm dead. Like he was really expecting a sequel to Favor. And it took me totally by surprise that he was so hurt. So I went, as far as they know. That was, I had to spin it, that there was more to the story, that maybe he faked his death.
Could have faked his death.
Yeah. So I had to spin it so that he had some hope to hang on to, but it was just hilarious. He was so hurt.
We don't know how much time is in between these two movies.
Right.
So
right.
There's time for a sequel in there. There could be a prequel. Right. You could do all sorts of things.
There's a couple of Easter eggs in Cruel Hearts. There's a 10 Till Noon poster.
I saw that, yeah.
In one room. One point, our news junkie is flipping channels, and he's watching television shows. And one of them, he's listening to a clip from Official Rejection. Mm-hmm. And he's listening to a clip from 10 Till Noon. Mm-hmm. And I was going to put in a clip from a Gary King movie, but I couldn't clear the music in it. So I put in, it's me pretending to be Richard Simmons. Doing an exercise video. But yeah, there's a few things. So in the cinematic universe, the Favor Cruel Hearts cinematic universe, in that universe, they watch 10 Till Noon and Official Rejection.
Because there's a poster in an office.
Yeah, so 10 Till Noon is not the characters in 10 Till Noon are not characters in Favor. In Favor, that's a movie that they watch. Those are fictional characters in the Favor universe.
Okay. I think I followed that.
Yeah, so there you go.
It's amazing the things that we just do to entertain ourselves, and we're like, no one will notice this.
Right.
No, but you're in a room staring at this thing for so long.
Right. This is fun. Yeah. Well, with in Fluorescent Beast, we have a bar scene, and we needed stuff on this. There's TVs in the bar. There's two big prominent televisions on either side of the bar, and it's like, what do you put there? Like normally sporting events would be up there.
Right.
Something. Well, I got to put something up there that we own. And in this scene is Blayne Weaver in this bar scene in Fluorescent Beast. So I can't put Favor up there, right? And I don't want to put Official Rejection up there because I only have a standard def master. These are HD televisions. It's going to look weird. So 10 Till Noon is playing in this bar.
Well, the other thing you could do there is you could just put someone else's movie in there and almost be like a trailer for someone else's thing, like for a Gary King movie, on mute or something like that.
In Favor, we had there's a scene where they're in a bar, and we try to get rid of all the product signs, and it was when we missed. There's a Michelob sign in the background behind Blayne's head in a couple of shots. And so the visual effects artist working on the movie was also an independent filmmaker. He had a film coming out, and I said, "Why don't you just cover that with a poster for your movie?" And so he did. Yeah, he put a little product list for his own film back there, which helped sweeten the deal on the money. He did those shots for free, strangely enough.
Yeah. So for Fluorescent Beast, Favor and Cruel Hearts, you shot both of them, but for Fluorescent Beast, Zach shot it, right? Zach Forsman.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that different for you as a director? That process.
It was great. It was great. Zach is. Well, I mean, I know and trust Zach. Right. The reason I shot Favor and Cruel Hearts is I used to be. This is a long story, but I used to work in production on the crew side when I was a young man, and I was an AD for a few years, doing independent films, commercials, whatever. And I just seen. If anybody on a crew there's a lot of great DPs out there, but if anybody on a crew is going to be a problem, it's almost always going to anybody who's not willing to work under the parameters we all have to work under. I've found more often than not is going to be the DP.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, like everybody's working under certain, no one ever has enough money. No one ever has enough gear. No one ever has enough time. We're all trying to do the best we can. The actor's like, okay, I only have this much time to learn my lines. I have this much time to do this scene. I have this much time to do this. Everybody's working the best they can into these things. I've seen about, as a young man in my early 20s, working in crews, everything from student films that I was hired on to $4 or $5 million movies. I'd say about 60% of the time, the director of photography caused massive delays by being overly precious about things that don't really matter to anyone but them.
Mm-hmm.
Often it was younger directors of photography who were more concerned about their reel than they were about making their day. I worked on a John Travolta movie where they fired the DP halfway through shooting because he was taking too long, and they hired Bruce Surtees to take over, who was equally as good and got things done on time and was totally, he knew what he was doing and he got done more quickly. Bruce told me that it was funny. I was working as a key PA on that movie. I was just under the AD department because it was I was the guy off set, right? Like, here's a set door and here's me going, rolling, cut. And so the crew outside the set could hear what was happening. I had my headphones on. DP was always inside. This is my first feature that I worked on. And the DP that was fired was always operating. He was always on set when they were shooting. This time, this is Bruce's first day. I'm standing there and I hear, okay, we're rolling. And Bruce walks out. He walks over to craft service. He's not operating. He doesn't give a shit. And I go, walk around, they're shooting. He's like, yeah, I'm aware. I go, aren't you on set? He's like, I don't want to fucking be on set. So I learned a lot about how DPs operate from him. And he said always, he goes, if you want to be faster, have less stuff. He referred to gear as toys. He goes, have less. Because if the DP has toys, they're going to want to play with the toys. Mm-hmm. So don't have toys you don't need if you want to speed things up. And so I found that was absolutely true. And so I on 10 Till Noon, our director of photography, Alice Brooks, who is a really talented DP. She's working with Lin-Manuel Miranda right now, or she was right before the pandemic.
Right.
But she caused massive delays on that film. And there was if you see 10 Till Noon, there's a shot where the camera's on a monitor and the camera pulls back to reveal two people watching the monitor, and it pulls back into a wide shot. It's a great shot. So the way the shot was achieved was, we were shooting a low budget movie, obviously, and Alice had gotten a doorway dolly, which is essentially it's a simple dolly. It's a flat piece of particle board on wheels with a pulley. There's usually no track, and you just put a camera on a hi-hat right on the dolly. There's no rigging. There's no like gears. There's no spider dolly. There's no track. It's just very simple. And so all you do is we're in a hotel room, so you flip the bed out of the way. You put the camera on the dolly track, on the doorway dolly, no dolly track, and you just have the key grip pull you back, and you achieve the shot. You pull focus. Very simple to do. She went to Scott and said, I can build a rigging above the bed. So instead of the camera pulling back where the bed is, the camera can pull back over the bed. So the bed's in the bottom of the frame. We're pulling over like it's a landscape. I can just build this rig. And he goes, well, how much longer is that going to take you? She's like, 10, 20 minutes. No problem. I'll build the rig. He's like, oh, we get a 10% cooler shot. Great. We don't need it, but great. Do it. Okay. 5 hours later, they're still building the rig. 6 hours in, they have it built. We're ready for lunch. We haven't got a single shot the whole day. We've lost half a day of our shoot on a 20-day shoot.
Yeah.
The thing's not working. It's bouncing. She's like, she can't figure out what the problem is. And like, the doorway dolly shot would have taken 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, take this thing down as fast as you can and do the shot with the doorway dolly. We had to break for lunch. Hour and a half after lunch, 8 hours in now, they finally get the thing torn down and the doorway dolly set up, and they're ready for her to do the shot. Now, I'm assuming she's learned some lessons because she was a very young DP at that time, and she's a very good DP. But yeah, I saw her just take down, just costs thousands of dollars, costs us an entire day of production essentially for a shot we didn't even get, because it would look 10% cooler because it would look cool on her reel. And I've seen I've seen DPs do amazing work and work within the parameters and do great stuff. I've seen DPs, but I've seen DPs tank movies. And so with both Favor and Cruel Hearts, I was like, I didn't have a DP that I trusted, that knew the work of. I mean, there are several that I know, and I'm like, I know you know how to work within the limitations that we're all facing, right, and you can make it look good. And you're not going to cost me my coverage for a cool master shot to put on your reel. You're going to help me you're a storyteller. You're going to help me tell a story. There are a lot of them, but they have to be available to work on the movie with them and willing to work under the costs and conditions we're in on a little independent movie. So it's much easier for me to shoot the film myself, make sure we get the coverage that we need, and make sure we get the film done. With Fluorescent Beast, I was planning to do that again, but Zach was posting about a camera he bought online, and he went, I said, how's the camera? And he goes, it's so good. I love shooting with it so much. I'll shoot your next movie for free. And I'm like, you stupid idiot. It's in writing now. It's happening.
That's
You're doing
a contract.
It's a contract. So he did it. And Zach, Zach is really talented, and he's way better shooter than me. But he also is a director, and an excellent one, a storyteller. So he's not going to waste time doing something we don't need. He's going to be efficient and get things done. And he did. And there were times that we had to, things weren't working, and he had to hold us up to get the shot right. Fine, that's great. That's what DP is supposed to do. But it didn't come at the expense of the production, of the overall. He was willing to work under the parameters. Every DP that ever lived is now going to hate me because of this podcast. But it's true. Like, I at length discussions with Bruce about DPs doing this. He goes, yeah, it happens a lot because a lot of young ones are really trying to make their bones, and they get this ownership of the image that's unshakable. And other crew members have done it. Actors certainly have held up productions because of their things. I have stories about Gary Busey that are nuts, and but I just found directors of photography, unless you have a really good relationship with them, it's really rolling the dice. And on a film where there is so little money and no contingency, that relationship has to be really rock solid, because not only do you have to rely on them to make your days, but they also have the footage in their hands as well. So you can't just it's not working, see you later. You don't get you lose your first years of shooting altogether. You really have to. So with Zach, it was great. And there were days that Zach couldn't be there. And Chris Sharp, another friend of mine, filled in for Zach shooting. And it worked out really well. It was a great experience. It was terrific to have him shoot and not have to worry about that, and be able to, and also to collaborate on the image, to be able to have a relationship with someone where I go, that he goes, I can do better than, I know what you're going for. What about this? Oh, that is better. Or Zach going, maybe we can pick this up. You might want this. And I go, I didn't think about that. Let's get that, and come up with things that on a film set, I think you feel the same way. My job as a director is to identify the best idea. It's not to have the best idea. It's to find the best idea. And it does not have to be mine at all. And the more people you have who are smart, you should be the dumbest person on the set if you can be, because they're all going to have good ideas. Yeah. And so, Zach was, again, this is why you shouldn't shoot yourself if you can. If you have someone who's really good, they're going to come up with stuff that I didn't think of, and ends up being really valuable in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to have good people working on your film and not have the film be better, because you're just going to have different ideas than you do because of how the world works.
As long as you, as the filter, are open to their ideas,
right.
You have to be able to, and that's the real trick of directing anything, is that you have to have a rigid plan. I mean, I do a lot of homework before any shoot day, but to know it so well you're willing to throw it away if something isn't working, or if a better idea comes up, and to be able to recognize when that idea is better and is better for the movie. Because some ideas are good, but they're not better for the film.
Right.
You know, for what you're going for, to have a clear vision that's really specific, but that is also not specific, also more esoteric, and that you can go, okay, well, that actually feeds into the idea better. That's an improvement, and that's really the challenge. And making a documentary really helped me find that groove to be loose, because that's when with documentary you're sort of, as you shoot, you're going, I can use this here, I can use this here, and you're finding the film. You know, it's being written, edited, and shot kind of all in at one time, and that allowed me to let go of things as a narrative director and go, okay, I can incorporate this, and to recognize that they're different.
I always felt that like the job of the director is that you have to know the thing on like a deep level.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 steps beyond what anybody else in the film has even thought about. Like, that you have to know that this movie that's, you know, ostensibly a comedy about farts, that, you know, it's really about a child's alienation. Mm-hmm. And no one would ever think that, and no one would ever make that connection, but that's the thing that's driving the film and is driving every single thing about the film. So you have to know then, when people are throwing ideas at you all day, you have to be able to go, no, yes, that one.
Right.
Because you know what the film is truly about at the deepest level.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that your job is to surround yourself with really talented people and be able to say, that idea is amazing and it is wrong for this movie.
Yeah.
You know, and you even in ways you can't even explain, you just have to know that that is wrong for this movie. And then you go, then you file it away and you're like, maybe on the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think what Francis Ford Coppola talks about, having one word for every movie, so we can always gauge that word against any idea. And like for The Godfather, it was family. Like that, this film's about family. So anything that would come up, which one is the most family? For me, it's more of an abstract idea. It's more of a feel of the movie. This movie feels like this in my head. This is the vibe. And that at that point, it's like the idea fit the vibe or no. And then does it fit the vibe better than the other thing? And that goes with casting and everything else. With Fluorescent Beast, because no one's seen that yet. It's a really different, it's not a crime thriller. It's a really different movie for me. It's a surreal black comedy.
What terrible thing does Patrick Day do in this one?
He's got a whole, like, I gave him, he's got a 10-page scene where he's pretty much monologuing the whole time. And then he's got 4 other scenes where he absolutely monologues the whole time. So I gave him, like, in Cruel Hearts, he plays a almost mute character. He broods. He's a thug. He doesn't really do a lot of talking. He's much more quiet. In Fluorescent Beast, he's like, it's like Sterling Hayden in Strangelove, just pages and pages and pages of like these Paddy Chayefsky level. And he's like, I really like dialogue, but I gotta remember how much. And we actually broke it up over several months, so we wouldn't have to. We shot it in pieces, so we wouldn't have to have it all.
It's that's how nice he is compared to how he's portrayed in your films.
Yeah,
like, he just knew him from your films. You'd be like, wow, this guy, man.
He teaches children. He teaches acting to children. It's like, that's his bread and butter, man. He's a sweetheart. So that film with Fluorescent Beast, it was an abstract idea of sort of the surreal comedic vibe. Like, it's somewhere between Eraserhead, Barton Fink, and After Hours. And this is a film where a lot of ideas evolved during the shooting. Like, we had this thing we did, but like, I don't know, like, I didn't openly, I wasn't like saying, hey, everybody come up with ideas, but we had a vibe on set where it was like, let's come up with ideas. Like, let's improve on this. Let's keep pushing this. And we came up with, and then we invented a whole color scheme idea, kind of just naturally evolved from how something that appeared on the first set we shot in. And Zach pointed it out. it was a red door, and so red became this thing. We were able to find ways to start incorporating red. It became part of the ongoing art direction, and we became this whole thing where we were starting to color code scenes, what was on set based on the character's like allegiance to a certain other character, and like we created this whole, I don't know, it evolved very quickly through wardrobe. Alina was our wardrobe person again, through art direction, through the performances, like all these ideas started coming out that weren't on the page. And they all came from the crew. They all came from the crew and the actors and people kind of spitballing on these ideas. And it was all because, for whatever reason, we all had the same abstract idea in our head we could chase down. And it's hard to explain. So it was a vibe, you know.
Right.
But that was a really kind of magical thing that happened on the set of that movie.
Cool. And so that's coming out, who knows when?
2022, hopefully.
20 something.
I have a 92-minute cut, and I'm gold bricking right now on the sound design of music. So
Nice. I'm excited to see that because, like, Zach, I think is insanely talented.
Insanely talented.
So, and I think that'll be an interesting, because you have a very like dark sort of worldview in your films, and I think pairing that with Zach's visual sense will be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he's got I'm much more about handheld usually. I really like the lived-in kind of like, it feels alive to me. And Zach is much more smooth, looking. His stuff tends to look, you know, it tends to be locked down or on, you know, dollies or sliders. Tends to be much more smooth that way. And originally, I had planned to do a lot more handheld in this movie, and in fact, we actually broke it down to like different locations. Like in this location, all handheld. This location, let's be on sticks. This location, let's do this. And we started doing that. But you know, again, you know, with DP, it's like watching an actor. You know, you sort of, as you get to know them as a performer, you sort of tend to re-engineer what they're doing, you know, or re-ask them different things. So with Zach, it was like, I was asking him to shoot handheld, and he does a great job. But I'm like, he really is finding the thing more on sticks or on dollies. And so, like, as we shot, I'm like, let's do this on sticks. Like, what do you think, Zach? Like, I think you're gonna find what you're doing faster on sticks, and you're gonna be communicating more as an artist on sticks. So the film has a much smoother look to it than ones we've done before, and I really like the way it looks. Like, Zach did a tremendous job, and he is crazy talented. He's hasn't directed a feature film, since Down and Dangerous, which was, I think, 2012.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, like, Zach, I'll write for you, man. Like, what can I do to make it happen? Like, I as a fan, I want him to do more stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'll write for you for free. What do you want me to do? Like, what can I do to help this happen? So he claims he's getting back on the horse. So.
All right. So last question. You work a lot with between Zach and Blayne, and I think Patrick directs, because he directs at least for his day job. Do you find it's helpful to collaborate with people who also direct?
Oh yeah.
Does that sort of grease the wheels?
Yeah, I almost look for it. You know, it's almost like it definitely they know what your job is. And so even if they're not thinking about your job, they're thinking about your job. So with hiring Zach as a DP, that was a big appeal to me. Not only did I know him personally, but he's a immensely talented director and storyteller. So it's like I can lean on him, you know, as he's shooting the movie. Like, are we telling the story? You know, he came up with great ideas. Blayne is a director; it's the same thing. Patrick is a director; it's the same thing. Anybody who directs, as a director, it makes your job a lot easier because they're aware of what you're doing. And you can also, with some actors, you know, you have to. Okay, if you need an actor to stand over by the window in a scene because that's where there's better light, and it's going to look cooler. With some actors, you can say to them, I want you to stand over here because it's better light and it's going to look cooler. And the actors you do that with tend to be actors who also direct because they get it. And they'll come up with something, like they'll need a reason to cross to that window,
right?
But they'll do it themselves. They'll go, okay, you need me to cross that window, and they'll come up with something because they know. But with other actors who don't direct, and not all of them, like John Woods is the star of Fluorescent Beast, and I don't know that he's directed, but I don't think he has, but he's one of those actors that you can say that to. It looks cool, be over here. And he'll come up with something. He's the most utilitarian actor I've ever worked with, I think. He's just like, you can throw him into anything. He doesn't even need an eye line. Like, Patrick Day, almost any actor, I need something to look at, to react to. Camera can be right here, but give me a person here so I can find it. John, you can put the camera right here. You put the camera here, you can be tapping him in the back of the head, you can be pouring Coke on his nipples, and he'll find it. Because he's like an army man. He's just like a Swiss Army man. He's just like, you can make him do anything. But a lot of actors, you'll need a reason them to step over to that window. And if you tell them it looks cool, that won't help them. They'll take them out of it. So you got to come up with a reason why you want them to go over there. And I can usually do that. But that's actors who have directed tend to be easier in that regard. The technical things, you don't have to justify as much to them. They get it right away. And they tend to be a little more self-servicing in that way. And also, as you're building a scene, they're kind of looking at what you're doing, and they do come up with suggestions that do invariably pull on their experience as directors. And again, like I'm delighted if someone comes up with a better idea than I had. I get to take credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, directing for me, Johnny Mars was like that. Is you could just ask him to do anything, and he's like, yeah, and because he has worked in every capacity, and he would shoot a scene, and then he would run off. He'd jump in a car and go do a location scout. Right. While you're shooting a scene that he's not in. Yeah. And it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Like, Blayne Weaver in Fluorescent Beast, we shot a scene in a bar where the scene is he's slamming back like whiskey. He's just pow, just taking these tumblers and just pulling them down. And it's shocking how much he's drinking. So this bar was available to shoot in only between close and reopen. So we had this bar I live in Burbank. This bar was in Echo Park, I think. Not close. So we had to shoot between, and then we got there, I think we loaded in at 2 a.m. and we had to load out at 7 a.m. Right, that was it. So that was our window. So Blayne was here. He was staying with me. So he was sleeping here. So we had to get up at 1 to leave by 1:30 to be on set by 2. So he's got a cold. So I can literally hear him in the next room coughing his brains out. We went to bed at like 9 p.m. And at one point I even texted him like, you okay? He's like, I'm good. To get up at 2 a.m. to go to set to shoot this scene. Now he's not shooting real whiskey. The stuff he's shooting is organic iced tea. It looks the right way. It's organic, but it's still warm iced tea that he's now slugging back. Every take he's shooting back 3 glasses of it. We're shooting with 1 camera, so we're getting a wide. We're getting a medium. We're getting a close. We're getting at least 3 takes. Do the math of how many times he's slamming this. He's slamming back bellyfuls of warm iced tea at now 3 a.m. on no sleep, doing 5 pages of dialogue. He'd go, you guys, it's great. We got this one. Okay, we're gonna move the camera. I'm gonna use the restroom. Go back. Throw up. Oh. Empty his stomach. He's buzzing on the caffeine and the sugar from the iced tea, trying to do this shit. So that was Blayne Weaver on the set of that movie.
That sounds like Blayne Weaver. Yeah.
Whenever he's not complaining. He's just doing it the whole time. And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, no, I'm not. I feel pretty bad. You ready to go again? Let's go again. Yeah, no, I got it. No, but I'm good. I got it. I'm good. We finally moved the coverage off of him, and he's just doing the lines off camera. He's still miming the slug backs of the iced tea, but he would forget sometimes. So they're still bringing him the full cups of iced tea because that's the temperature he's putting in front of him. So we see the iced tea coming towards him, but we don't see actually him. He has an empty glass. He can mime slugging back, but he's forgetting, and he was still slugging back the iced tea off camera.
Oh, all right. Paul, thank you so much for joining me.
Sure.
Cruel Hearts is on Amazon Prime. It's a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it. It has
Thank you.
Jan from The Office is in it, and yeah, it's a good time. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.